In the sweltering summer of 1680, Madrid lay beneath a suffocating blanket of heat. Within the vast and grandiose halls of the Alcazar, the royal residence, the air hung heavy and stagnant, infused with an overwhelming melange of lavender, rose water, and an unmistakably unpleasant odor. This was no ordinary stench. It was a pervasive reminder of a deep-seated affliction that plagued the royal family. As the young Princess Margarita Teresa made her way down the corridor, courtiers discreetly covered their noses or stepped aside, exchanging hushed whispers. "Her Royal Highness approaches," one lady-in-waiting would furtively murmur to another, quickly spritzing floral water into the air, a futile gesture, as the effect was swiftly overwhelmed by the powerful odor of decay. At just 19 years old, Margarita, the daughter of King Philip IV of Spain and niece to her own mother, Mariana of Austria, carried with her a scent so offensive it eclipsed even the finest perfumes courtiers could muster. Descriptions of the odor likened it to rotting fish mingled with damp mildew. Despite her frequent baths and the endless concoctions devised by the palace perfumers, the foul odor seemed to return with relentless persistence. This condition was a harsh and cruel symptom of a grim reality that had long afflicted her bloodline. Generations of intermarriage among uncles and nieces, cousins, and other close relatives had undoubtedly contributed to the intricate tapestry of genetic decline. Such desperate unions were a strategy by the House of Habsburg to preserve power and wealth, yet the cost was becoming tragically manifest in the health of its descendants. Watching from across the room, Don Diego Velázquez, the esteemed court painter, observed her glide past with an eye tempered by wisdom and age. He had chronicled the royal family for decades, capturing both their ceremonial splendor and the undeniable signs of genetic deterioration. The features of each generation bore the marks of the Habsburg legacy more prominently: jutting jaws, thick lips, hooked noses, and now unexplainable bodily odors that eluded even the best medical practitioners of the time. Velázquez had once overheard the royal doctor, Luis Marcato, refer to this condition as the price of blood purity. The phrase resonated with him, echoing hauntingly in his memory. In the year 1605, Marcato had penned Morbus Hereditaris, a treatise warning of the grave dangers of inbreeding, yet his cautions had fallen on deaf ears. The Spanish crown, intent on keeping its lineage untainted by outside blood, continued to bind itself in familial unions. Meanwhile, in the palace kitchens, an experienced cook named Maria stirred a thick herbal brew, laboring over a steaming pot. Having served 3 generations of Habsburgs, she had witnessed the ebb and flow of royal health and turmoil. As she crushed rosemary and thyme into a thick paste, yet another remedy for the princess's condition, she muttered to herself, "Poor girl. It's not her fault she was born like this." Abruptly, the door swung open and the high steward burst in, his brow slick with sweat. "Hurry with that remedy. Her Highness is about to receive the French ambassador." The ambassador, Jean-Baptiste Colbert, Marquis of Torquay, was known for his discerning eye and keen reports back to King Louis XIV of France. His missives already detailed the physical decline of the Spanish royal family. Each minor observation, each perceived defect became a strategic weapon in the delicate negotiations of European politics. "I doubt any herb will mask that smell," a young page foolishly noted, only to receive a swift slap across the face from the steward. "Mind your words," he barked, reprimanding the boy for speaking of the royal bloodline with such disdain. In her chambers, Princess Margarita Teresa stood quietly, her ladies preparing her appearance for the formal audience ahead. Tears threatened to spill, but she remained silent, even as thick layers of powder were applied, her lips painted, and dazzling jewels draped around her neck. Yet no amount of embellishment could conceal the harsh truth. The mirrors, cruel in their honesty, reflected the Habsburg jaw, sunken eyes, and translucent skin tinged with an ill hue. "Your Highness, the ambassador awaits," announced the chamberlain from the doorway, careful not to breathe deeply from the heavy air. Taking a determined breath, Margarita steadied herself, embodying the lessons instilled in her from a young age. She straightened her back, lifted her chin, and summoned forth the resilient pride of the Habsburg name. "Let him in," she ordered, infusing her voice with a strength she scarcely felt. In a distant wing of the palace, her younger brother Carlos, only 12 years old and already named heir to the Spanish throne, sat hunched over a book, his tutors struggling to impart the basics of reading. Carlos's oversized tongue made articulation a challenge, his malformed jaw garbled even the simplest of words, and his legs, twisted from rickets, rendered walking painful. He suffered frequent seizures and lagged far behind his peers intellectually. "Your Majesty, let's try once more," the tutor urged, staving off his own frustration. Carlos blinked slowly, his gaze drifting out the tall window toward the palace gardens, where children of noblemen played joyously, running with strength and vigor he could only dream of. He had never been part of their world, his fragile physique and feeble health keeping him confined to the ornate chambers where even a common cold could spell disaster. Meanwhile, in the council chamber, King Philip IV, weary and aged, sat with his ministers. The ongoing war with France had drained the royal treasury, while unrest simmered among their colonies in the New World. Still, neither the kingdom's treasuries nor foreign affairs troubled the king as much as the future of his bloodline. "Your Majesty must consider a marriage for Prince Carlos," suggested the Duke of Medina, the Prime Minister. "He may be young, but securing the succession is imperative." Philip stroked his graying beard, an inner tumult brewing. He knew the unsettling truth: his son might never father children. Private consultations with the court physicians had revealed the likelihood of hypogonadism. Carlos's fertility was potentially irrevocably compromised. But what princess in Europe would agree to marry such a boy? Nevertheless, he voiced none of his doubts, instead nodding solemnly. "Consider the royal houses of France, Austria, and Portugal," he instructed. "Present suitable candidates before the council." Yet unsaid, the urgent motive driving this dialogue remained. A relentless obsession with blood purity that had long governed the dynasty's decisions. The preservation of their legacy had always come at a staggering cost, one that seemed to escalate with each new generation. As the council echoed with murmured deliberations and scribes hastily recorded notes, a messenger burst into the chamber, bowing deeply before Philip and presenting a sealed letter. With trembling fingers, the king broke the wax seal and read, his pallor deepening into a ghastly shade. "There has been an incident," he announced, his voice cracking under the weight of his fear. Princess Margarita Teresa collapsed during the audience. Gasps rippled through the room, and it was clear to all that this was not a first. Her health mirrored the fragility of her brother's. "Adjourn the meeting," the king muttered, rising slowly. "I must see my daughter." As he traversed the corridors of the palace towards Margarita's quarters, a heavy sorrow weighed upon him. He had months prior wed his niece, Mary Anna of Austria, continuing the line's historical pattern of close intermarriage. Though he had deemed it politically sagacious, he had never fully comprehended the repercussions for his children. Now, as he witnessed their suffering twisted bodies, dim minds, futures slipping away, guilt descended upon him like a suffocating crown of iron. He had not only condemned his own children, but jeopardized the very future of the Spanish Empire. In the depths of the royal library, a solitary candle flickered next to a hunched figure. The royal physician, brow furrowed with concentration, pored over ancient manuscripts, desperate for insights into the slow deterioration of Spain's most powerful dynasty. His gaze arrested on a passage from Marcado's long-forgotten treatise. Repeated unions of blood to close kin yield fragile offspring prone to illness and disfigurement and, in the most severe cases, incapable of reproduction. The doctor sighed, closing the book softly. There were no remedies to be found, only the harsh warnings that had been disregarded through generations. Outside, storm clouds loomed ominously over Madrid, thunder rumbling in the distance as if to echo the turmoil brewing within the gilded confines of the Alcazar. The scent of damp stone and wilted lavender pervaded the corridors, a lingering reminder of Princess Margarita Teresa's affliction. This odor had transformed into a symbol, a representation not merely of decay but of a bloodline slowly collapsing under the weight of its own legacy. And time, it seemed, was running out. The clock in the tower of the Alcazar struck noon on a cool November day in 1679. Church bells rang solemnly as the Spanish royal family entered the Cathedral of Santa Cedro. This was no ordinary service. It marked the wedding of Carlos II, aged 18 and king since the age of 4, to Maria Luisa of Orleans, the spirited 17-year-old niece of King Louis XIV of France. Having arrived in Madrid just a week prior, court whispers suggested that the young bride wept tears of despair upon first laying eyes on her groom. Who could blame her? Despite the best efforts to present Carlos in an appealing light-dressed, powdered, and perfumed, he appeared a pitiful figure. Emaciated and frail, the unmistakable Habsburg jaw protruded grotesquely, preventing him from fully closing his mouth. He required the support of 2 aides merely to stand through the ceremony, his frail frame draped in royal regalia. Cardinal Portoro presided over the nuptials, his voice trembling as he struggled to uphold the ceremony's dignity in the face of the king's visible struggles. When it came time for Carlos to voice his vows, an awkward silence enveloped the church. His voice stuttered and faltered, a soft, high-pitched mumble that hung in the air. The congregation held its breath, caught in a tense limbo between sympathy for the beleaguered king and discomfort at the unfolding spectacle. Subscribe to our channel and press the bell icon to support our work and never miss an upload. Like this video, drop a comment, and share it with others to show your support and help us grow this historical community.